Oh my God, this is a story that actually matters. This is the nightmare scenario that explains everything about why the Falcons have been so passive, why they haven't made aggressive moves, why they're stuck in this miserable limbo. The Atlanta Falcons don't have their 2026 first-round pick because they traded it to move up and draft James Pearce Jr., and now that pick is projected to be number 10 overall. This is an absolute disaster. Let me make sure everyone understands the magnitude of what just happened here. The Falcons are 3-6. They're in free fall. They've lost 4 straight games. And instead of being able to look forward to a top 10 pick that could bring in a franchise-altering talent, a left tackle, a quarterback, a game-changing defensive player, they're going to watch the Los Angeles Rams make that selection while they sit at home with nothing. This is organizational malpractice at the highest level. Here's what makes this situation so incredibly painful. The front office's entire calculation was wrong. They traded that 2026 first-rounder because they believed this team would be competitive in 2025, that the pick would be in the 20s, that it would be worth sacrificing for an immediate impact edge rusher. But they were completely wrong about their own roster. They misjudged where this team actually was, and now they're paying the price in the most brutal way possible. And you know what the worst part is? James Pearce Jr. is actually playing well. The article confirms he's been excellent. He's making plays. He's exactly what they hoped he'd be. So, it's not even that they whiffed on the talent evaluation. They nailed that part, but they completely botched the evaluation of their own team's competitive window. And that mistake is going to haunt this franchise for years. Let me paint you a picture of what this actually means. The 2026 NFL Draft is going to feature elite quarterback prospects, generational offensive tackle talent, game-changing defensive players. And the Falcons, who desperately need all those things, are going to be sitting there watching the Rams, a team in their own conference, a team they might have to compete against for playoff spots in future years. Use their pick to select one of those players. That's not just painful, that's organizational torture. And here's what makes this even more infuriating. This explains everything about the Falcons' behavior this season. This is why they didn't make aggressive moves at the trade deadline. This is why they're not signing impact free agents. This is why they're being so conservative with every decision. Because they know that they've already mortgaged their future, and they can't afford to make it worse by giving up more assets or taking on bad contracts. The article mentions that the Falcons currently only have 5 draft picks for 2026, rounds 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. That's it. No first rounder, no fifth rounder. So they're going into next year's draft with limited ammunition to improve the roster, which means they're completely dependent on hitting on every single pick they do have. And if they miss on any of those picks, they're stuck in mediocrity for even longer. Let's talk about the opportunity cost here, because this is what's really devastating. A top 10 pick in 2026 could have been a franchise left tackle to protect Michael Penix Jr. for the next decade, an elite edge rusher to pair with Pearce Jr. and create a dominant pass rush duo, a shutdown cornerback to fix the secondary, or, if Penix doesn't work out, a potential franchise quarterback. Instead, the Rams are going to get one of those players. The Rams are going to use Atlanta's pick to add a cornerstone piece to their roster. And the Falcons are going to have to watch it happen while they try to cobble together a competitive team with mid-round picks. The article tries to soften the blow by saying the Falcons probably won't regret the trade because Pearce Jr. is playing well. But you know what? That's cold comfort when you're watching another team use what could have been a top 10 pick. Yes, Pearce is good. Yes, he's contributing. But is he so good that he's worth giving up a potential generational talent? That's the question the Falcons are going to have to answer, and right now, the answer is looking more and more like N.O. Here's what really drives me crazy about this situation. The arrogance of the front office's original calculation. They looked at this roster, they looked at Kirk Cousins at quarterback, they looked at their offensive weapons, and they convinced themselves they were a playoff team. They convinced themselves they were one piece away from contending. And based on that flawed evaluation, they made a massive bet on the future. And now that bet is blowing up in their face. And let's talk about what this means for the rest of this season. Every loss from here on out makes that Rams pick more valuable. Every game the Falcons lose, that pick moves up in the draft order. So Atlanta fans in the worst possible situation. They're watching their team lose, knowing that each loss hurts twice, because it's also improving a pick that another team is going to use. The comparison to other teams is just brutal. Look at teams like the Giants, the Panthers, the Patriots. They're bad this year, but at least they have their first-round picks. At least they can look forward to adding elite talent in 2026. But the Falcons, they're bad, and they don't have their first-rounder. They get all the pain of a losing season with none of the potential reward of a high draft pick. That's the definition of organizational purgatory. And here's the part that should terrify Falcons fans. This situation is going to make it even harder to turn things around quickly. Without that first-round pick, without that potential franchise-altering talent, the Falcons are going to have to rely on mid-round draft picks, free agency, and player development to improve. And based on their track record, how confident should anyone be in their ability to do that effectively? The article mentions that other rookies like Xavier Watts and Billy Bowman Jr. are contributing, which is great. But you know what? Those are third and fourth round picks. They're nice depth pieces, but they're not the kind of foundational talents you get in the top 10 of the draft. And that's what the Falcons are missing out on. The chance to add a true difference maker who can change the trajectory of the franchise. So here's my take on this situation, and it's the harshest criticism I can give. The Atlanta Falcons front office made a catastrophic miscalculation that is going to set this franchise back for years. They traded away what's now projected to be a top 10 pick because they believed they were better than they actually were. And now they're stuck watching the season spiral out of control, while knowing that they won't even have the consolation prize of a high draft pick to show for it. This is organizational failure at the highest level, and there need to be consequences. Terry Fontenot evaluated his own roster and got it completely wrong. He thought this team was ready to compete, ready to make a playoff push, ready to justify trading away premium future assets. And he was wrong about all of it. And now the Falcons are paying the price, and they're going to continue paying for years to come. The only way this trade doesn't end up being a complete disaster is if James Pearce Jr. becomes a perennial All-Pro, a Hall of Fame caliber player who single-handedly transforms the defense. And even then, you're still going to wonder what could have been with that top 10 pick, because generational talents don't come around often, and the Falcons just gave one away to a conference rival. What do you think? Can James Pearce Jr.'s performance justify giving up what's now a top 10 pick? Or is this the kind of miscalculation that should cost Terry Fontenot his job? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And make sure you're subscribed, because this story is going to be hanging over the Falcons for the entire rest of the season and beyond.